This is RoundHouse with your host, Senior Grandmaster Dacascos and Grandmaster Ron Van Clief, talking about the things that Grandmasters just don't want to talk about and giving you a seat at the table. This is your host, Sifu Sean Harflinger, and we look forward to talking to you. RoundHouse, take the hit. And now a word from our sponsors. Funky Puppy Productions. If you need a production done, Funky Puppy Productions can do it for you. Visit us at funkypuppyproductions.com. On behalf of the International Kaji Kembo Association, we would like to invite you to the Hawaii Pacific Regionals. All styles, MMA combatives, eskrima, point sparring, weapons kata, and forms. The Hawaii Pacific Regionals is a 3-day event. Saturday the 27th, Sunday the 28th, and Monday the 29th. You can pre-register at kajikembo-ika.com. Pre-register today. Adult discretion advised. There is adult content in the following podcast. Please be advised. Everybody, this is RoundHouse, and today we are talking about Bruce Lee. You're right, the one and only Bruce Lee, and we've got people that actually knew him. I never knew him, but these two gentlemen, Senior Grandmaster Dacascos and Senior Grandmaster Ron Van Clief, they both knew Bruce Lee, and we are going to talk to them about them knowing him knowing them knowing him, and the Kung Fu Shuffle that they all did together. It's going to be amazing. And so I'd love it to start the program with Senior Grandmaster Dacascos. Please tell us your Bruce Lee story now.
Okay. Let's say this. Put it this way. I didn't really have that much problems with Bruce Lee at all. Problems were actually started by students. That chapter of my life, I just want to say that I hold Bruce Lee and Wong Jack Man in the highest standards. And people don't know who Wong Jack Man is. Wong Jack Man was a person that is said to have fought Bruce Lee, or that Bruce Lee had challenged. And there's a lot of things that's going on between that story, but that story has a lot to do with me and my association with them. I want to start this chapter by, just making people know that, the respect between all three of us is really high. And sometimes you guys hear about the story about Bruce Lee, and some of them know about me and Bruce. A lot of the things is really false, because when I say it's false, let me give you the truth of what really happened. And maybe I'm confusing you at this point, at this stage right now. There was something that were going around back in the early 1960s that Bruce Lee and I had a confrontation. The confrontation that Bruce Lee and I had was actually a real big misunderstanding. But if the thing hadn't been solved, then there would have been a real big conflict between his school then and my school. At that particular time in the 60s, I was already into competition in the karate world, and which is pretty new, because during the early 1960s, karate championships like the International Karate Championship that at Parker Dunn, was pretty new. It's all coming up. This is where you had a lot of the people that were actually competing and bringing the martial arts are going good. Let me go back a bit and cover this conflict that we had. I actually came to the mainland from Hawaii at about 1965, I guess 1964, 1965. Can't remember. That's almost 50, 60 years ago. But when I came, I left Hawaii on account of a job and trying to build a new life here. And Bruce was already there. Um, and I was up in the Bay Area teaching what was called Kajukembo, and Kajukembo had there was a main system, but it had different styles to it. The Kajukembo Kempo Karate and the Kajukembo Tonpai and Kajukembo Chuan Fan Wan Hapkyundo, which came later. Now, there's a lot of things that were going on and stories that have gone around in the Bay Area, and sometimes recollecting what was happened 50, 60 years ago. If you don't repeat all the time, sometimes it gets lost in track, and sometimes even going around, it don't end up being the story that was actually there at the very beginning. My association with Bruce Lee came at a kind of weird way. I'm going to jump back and forth. I opened up my school in Oakland, California, which was pretty much in an area called San Leandro, which is just a borderline from Oakland. Bruce Lee had his school with James Lee, which was no relationship, just the name Lee. So many Lees over there, but he had his school just maybe a couple of blocks away from where I was at, and I didn't know that. Let's say that the way that I met Bruce Lee was pretty awkward, because a guy by the name of Ron Liu introduced me to Wong Jack Man, and Wong Jack Man introduced me to Paul Wing, and just a chaos things at the very beginning. This was down in San Jose area that I trained with Ron Liu in their Chinese San Jose Chinese community there. When I came up to California, I had already a style that was called Tonpai, and that was pretty much what Emperado, Adriano Emperado had from his Kajukembo, because he had gone through a transition in himself from the Kempo Karate to the Kajukembo Tonpai, which was a small section because he was getting more into the softer section like Tai Chi and Pakwa and Xinghe. Just get down to the bare essence. I think between Ron Van Clief and I will be going back and forth on his take on it, on his appreciation with Bruce Lee, and my association with Bruce Lee and the people that are around him. Okay, when I came to California, I didn't know who Bruce Lee was. I had no idea who he was. I had opened up a school in a garage, and that garage school that I had went from 12 people to over 20-something people. So therefore, we couldn't get any more space. So we opened it up into a place like a dance hall that was like a ballet dance hall. And we stayed there for about 6 months. And that one outgrew because we ended up with over 40 students. So then I went into what they call open space on the main drag. It was called East 14th Street, and which was one of the main streets that from East 14th it went right into Oakland. It was a street location, and I had put up a sign out there that says School of Chinese Kempo Kung Fu, and there was that. I mean, there's a lot of really detail on it, but I'm just gonna make it short. The thing was just that I had that the way that I began to know who Bruce was in an awkward way. It was on a Sunday afternoon. It was pretty dark in this Sunday afternoon. Kind of cloudy on the outside, and I saw this. And on the inside, if you look from the outside inside, you couldn't see anybody because it was dark. But I was way in the back side. So from the back side of the school, I could see the front window. And from the front window, I could see people in there. But when you look in from the outside in, you couldn't see who was there. And I saw these two Chinese guys looking inside the window and just trying to see what was going on over there. I paid no attention to them, you know what I mean? But I said, oh, it's kind of funny, because normally the people that would be looking into my school would be a lot of Caucasians that was walking around that area because you didn't have any Chinese in that area, in the San Leandro area. They were mostly in the Oakland area. So, so I saw this two Chinese guys looking inside, and I didn't pay any attention to it, and that was that. Now, the the conflict that I had, I'm going to get into that, but this is how it started. We started to get name in there, and we started to do demonstrations. And one of the demonstrations we did was at a stadium-like auditorium in Oakland area, and it was like a garden show. That was doing a garden show there. So we had a stage, and I had my school demonstrating there along with some other martial arts school, and I saw these two Chinese guys again. I said, these guys look familiar. They look like the guys that was looking in my window, and they were like in the second or third seat row, looking at us demonstrate. And it was at that time I didn't know who we were, but now I know it was Bruce Lee and James Lee, just sitting down and just watching our demonstration. Our demonstration went well, and as soon as we finished, the next group that came on, they stood up and left. They didn't care about watching the other guys, so they just watched us. You see what I mean? So a couple of weeks went by, and I had found out that hey, this guy over here by the name of Bruce is really upset with you. I said, upset? Who the hell is Bruce Lee? I don't even know who he was. You see? Oh, he said, oh, he's the guy that's is doing that. He was doing a television movie where he played Kato. I don't know what I forgot
Green
what
Hornet.
it's called. Yeah, he was playing the Green Hornet. You see, he was playing Kato, and so I say, why is he upset at me? He says, oh, because it seems that word go around that you had punched him and knock him off his horse. I said, knock him off his horse? What are you talking about? I had no idea what he was talking about. Then what happened was just that, there was a lot of commotion that was going on, and this thing was going around, and it was like rumors that like Bruce Lee wanted to meet with me and talk with me and everything. And I wanted to talk with him too, because there was this personality that was going on, that wasn't, not too good. So, but what happened was just that my student, Ted Sotelo, and his brother was really the two good students in my, school. And Ted had happened to go to a party where Bruce Lee's students were also at the party. And they were talking and discussing about different martial arts. And the party had a lot of noise, and, people were talking. And somebody, they said, oh yeah, that's a Ted Sotelo student over here. And no, Ted Sotelo is El Dacascos. No, it's C4L student. They didn't even mention the name Dacascos. They said that C4L students were there, and then C4L was the one that had knocked Bruce Lee on his butt, and punch him in the chest and get him off. In other words, when you say when you get knocked off your horse, you get into the horse stance, and you have somebody come and punch you into the chest and see if you're strong enough to take it, And apparently, C4L went and knocked Bruce Lee off his horse, and people had assumed that it was me, but nobody knew that was a misinterpretation, because there was another C4L by the name of C4L Novak. It was a big white guy, C4 Novak, L Novak. And C4L Novak was the one that had punched Bruce Lee off his horse. So there was a misinterpretation on which C4L it was. See, one was me, C4L, which usually people would call me Small L. And then C4L Novak, they would call him Big L, because he was, pretty close to 300, maybe 325 pounds or something, So he had punched Bruce Lee. So that was the thing that was going on. So, and that went on for about good 9 months, where it was C4L, he was punching Bruce Lee, and they were blaming on me. So Bruce wanted to straighten it out, because he knew, that it wasn't me, because I was small, and they was talking about a guy that was much more bigger. Anyway, that thing went on for about a year, and by the time 1976 came, I had seen Bruce Lee in a tournament, and he was at the tournament in the International Karate Championships. I remember him with his blue blazer and his white pants, and he was sitting with James Lee. He was sitting up on the front row around this boxing ring, which I was in competition. And at that time, I had won the Chinese division in form. A guy by the name of John Pereira had won the Japanese. Chuck Norris had won the Korean form competition. So we all went into competition. But then, while I was warming up, I had pulled my left hamstring. So man, I couldn't really perform. So I did the very, very best I could. You see what I mean? But I noticed Bruce was kind of watching him. I already knew then. People would tell me, "Hey, that's Bruce Lee over there." I said, "Yeah." After I get done, I want to go talk to him and straighten this thing out. And so I did my form, and this was for the Grand Championship. Now, the Grand Championship between the Chinese, the Korean, and the Japanese competitors. And John Pereira won the form, and Chuck Norris and me just kind of stood by, and we didn't win. You know what I mean? Because my injuries, and I went out. So I went out, and I was trying to look for Bruce. Bruce had already gone. And then 1 year later, again, you see, here it was. He was at the tournament at this particular time, and I had just fought, and which was really weird because at this particular championship, I had fought a guy by the name of Steve Saunders. They call him Steve Muhammad now, I think. And we had fought, and Steve Muhammad went up to fight for the Grand Champions, where I had lost that one there in the finals. But when I was coming down from the elevator, Bruce was just coming out, and I just saw Bruce and say, "Hey, Bruce, how you doing?" And he looked at me and said, "Hey, how you doing?" And then so I said, "Hey, I'd like to talk to you about something." He says, "Okay." So we went to the by the rails. I said, there's a lot of things that's going on, and I tell you, there's just a lot of rumors going on, and people are saying that that I had knocked you off your horse, and I just want to straighten that there because this is the first time I meet you formally. And he turned around, he slapped my back, put his just like that. He said, "Hey, don't worry about it." It says instructors don't make problems. It's the students that usually cause problems for themselves, for the instructors. And I kind of look at him and I said, "Oh, that's a relief," because I thought we would really get into some kind of a confrontation, Then from that point on, we started talking about other things. Well, the problem was just that, we finally found out that, he knew that it was a student by the name of Newt Kawakami that had talked to my student, Ted Sotelo, and they got the stories all mixed up with C4L, the Dacascos, never did it. It was C4L Novak that had actually punched him and get him out of the way. But anyway, at that time, we started talking about the problems and the competition. And he had said by that time, within 1 year, he had already begun to know what style I was fighting out of from, because when I told Ted Sotelo to go up to James Lee's house and correct the problem with Bruce Lee, he went up to James Lee's house in Oakland, up in the hills. And when he went there, he had explained to James Lee that there was a misunderstanding and everything. Ted didn't know at that time that Bruce Lee had just come out and sat down, but he didn't recognize Bruce Lee at that time because Bruce Lee was sitting down. He had his jeans, white T-shirt, and thick glasses. So to him, it wasn't Bruce Lee; it was just somebody else. So this guy with the thick glasses came up and says, "Hey, what's your style?" Then that was Bruce Lee talking to Ted Sotelo, and Ted tell him, "Oh, his Gaju Kimbo Tumpai." And that time, one Hap Kyun Do name wasn't there. And my style at the particular time, if you came inside real quickly, it was pivot off to the side and then attack from the side. Whereas Bruce Lee's style at that particular time, they were using straight punches and coming in really quickly. So the confrontation came between James Lee student or my student was that when James Lee's student would attack, going straight into Ted would move to the side and counter on the side. So Bruce already had a concept of how we were fighting. But never fight straight against straight, but going over to the sides and angles, taking a zigzag. Anyway, that was he had his first inauguration, in other words, of how we did. Then comes the later part of 1968 or 69, I can't recall which date, where my other confrontation with Bruce Lee wasn't a confrontation, but was more of an acknowledgement of what we were doing. He was promoting Kung Fu, with his Kato and the Green Hornet and doing things in Hollywood and working with the Hollywood people. I wasn't. I was working more demonstrating in regular tournaments and seminars and fighting in competition. Well, I was selected to be on the Midwest team, and what's his name? Chuck Norris put together a team competition where they had the Chuck Norris team. They had, they had a Traces team, the team from the East Coast, a Midwest team, and so forth. And so I ended up fighting in that tournament, in competition. And what happened was just that there was a couple of other teams too. A team from Japan that came in, and I was the second person on the team to fight this 6-degree black belt from Japan. That was the guy that really actually managed him was oh Jesus, I can't recall his name. But anyway, I'll get back to it. We had the competition going, and I was the second man on the team, and I faced this guy. And if you can imagine the ring, if I'm here and my competitor is here, and there are audience on this side right here, an audience all the way around, and on this side of that one there in the back was sitting James Lee again with some Hollywood celebrities, and then Bruce Lee. And when I had fought this guy, I came on really quickly, lunging in with a back fist, reverse punch, spinning back kick, and hit him with a spinning back kick, hit him in the chest, and he went back and fell and sat on Bruce Lee's lap. You see, bang, just like this. You know what I mean? So Bruce Lee kind of pushed him off over here, and he looked at me, and Bruce goes like this, 2 thumbs up. You see what I mean? So he kind of acknowledged, because I just came right on. The score at that time ended up as being 5-0, so I beat him up. This guy here. So I don't know, the next guy, whoever fought, it didn't matter. But Bruce came up to me and he says, "Hey, your stance looks kind of different. You see?" He says, "Yeah, because you see, at that time when I was fighting in Kung Fu at the very beginning, I used to stand like this. You see what I mean? Like that, right? And that was really high. And now, when I was in competition, I was fighting this way, low. You see? And he told me, why you did that? He says, well, what happened was just that about 7 months later, before that tournament, I was fighting in Los Angeles, and I had fought a Taekwondo guy, and I was fighting with my hand high, and he did a step cross side kick, hit me to the chest. I went over the judge's desk. When I came back, my ribs were already cracked, so I wasn't going to stand this way, so I turned it down and I fought this way, and then from that point on, it was very hard for anybody to come in. So what was interesting was just that if later on I started seeing Bruce do the same thing. You know what I mean? So I kind of talked to him, and I look at him, and I go like that, and he go back to me like that. So we kind of know that what is good, it works. It doesn't matter. I mean, you're going to adopt it anyway because you learn from a lesson. So that was one thing that we had going for it. And oh man, you want to take over, Ron? I can come back later.
Oh no, that was
I got more
good.
things
That
we
was
can talk.
good. Two jazz players talking about jazz at the end, using each other's stuff,
Yeah.
the moves. That was great. You know, Ron, between the two of you guys, you have two different aspects of Bruce Lee, right? You've got the professional in the ring, competitive, school owner thing, and then you've got Ron's experience. Let's hear about that, Ron, because you've got some good Bruce Lee juice.
I met Bruce Lee at Ed Parker's tournament in California, the Internationals in Long Beach. And I lost to Steve Muhammad that day. And I was with Darnell Garcia and Leo Fong. It was kind of interesting because I didn't know him. I didn't know of him, When I saw him a couple of years later at the All-American Championship where I fought and I lost, and Bruce told me I was the Black Dragon, and we laughed and went back to the hotel. He said, "You have anything to smoke?" And of course, I had weed, and we smoked weed and talked shit till 4:00 in the morning.
Oh, okay.
Really cool, really cool guy.
Was he already famous? Was he already the famous Bruce Lee when you met him, or was he up and coming when you met him?
He had done shows like Marlowe. What was that kung fu show that he was on?
The Green Hornet.
The Green Hornet. I think he had done The Big Boss.
All right, so he was right in the beginning of it. So he was in the beginning of it.
Really cool guy. He introduced me to Wing Chun. He hadn't yet completely formed his JKD thing,
Right.
And so he taught me about the mechanics of the Bang Sao, the Kan Sao, the Puk Sao, the inner workings of the Wing Chun. That was one of his specialties in combat, because he was able to block and counter at the same time, which is the basis of the Wing Chun system.
Right. So he trained with you. You guys had time to train together.
I actually had the opportunity to have lessons from him, in that he turned me on to Leontine in Hong Kong, where I continued my Wing Chun even after Bruce passed away. I think Wing Chun is a really good system for competition or street, because it's straight ahead, chain punching, countering and punching at the same time, locking and countering at the same time. It's really quite good for basic self-defense for the street. Very efficient. There's only 3 forms, I found it to be a great addition to what I had already been training in, which was Goju Karate, Shotokan Karate, Taekwondo, Okinawan Karate. So it enhanced my whole way of thinking about combat in sparring, because for some strange reason, I never put blocking and countering together as one move until I met him.
Right on.
Sometimes it would happen like by accident,
right?
But his whole thing was based on blocking and countering at the same time, not after, not before. His reaction time, we sparred a couple of times. We sparred in a hotel room, the Hilton Hotel in New York City. Really fast hands. Really fast hands. And I was impressed. And the last time I saw him was in Hong Kong. I was with Leo Fong and Alexander Fouchang, at the Unicorn Chan. We were having dim sum on Nathan Road, some Chinese place. That was the last time I saw him. And that was maybe a week before he died.
Oh, really?
So
a week before he died?
Yeah.
Wow. How did you take that when you found out?
It was... One of my Kung Fu brothers called me and told me. And his name was Jason Pai Piao. He called me and told me, I said, what? I couldn't believe it, It's crazy. I mean, I had just seen him like a week before.
At a Chinese dim sum place.
Yeah. He had our smoke as usual,
So, and that was a complete freak accident. Yeah, so nobody would have seen that coming. So, wait a second. You had multiple chances to smoke and enjoy fine conversation with Bruce Lee.
Oh, yeah.
What
He was a philosopher, man. He talked a lot of shit. It was good, man. What is better than to sit back and talk to someone that is really knowledgeable about a subject?
Right, exactly.
The psychology of martial arts we discussed. We discussed the philosophy and concepts and principles of different forms of martial arts. He was a guy that believed, like I do, that there's no one art that does everything, that has everything. I think that everybody should pick at martial arts and get the stuff that works and discard the stuff that doesn't work,
Sounds like religion.
Yeah, it's like a religion.
You grab all the good stuff and all the bad stuff. Yeah,
I
never mind that.
Doing martial arts 65 years ago with Moses Powell in Brooklyn as a 16-year-old kid doing traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu with a Filipino teacher, Professor B. Florendo Visitacion. He was Moses Powell's teacher, and that's where I started.
How old were you when you met Bruce Lee?
I was 22.
22, so still young.
22, 23, yeah.
And how old do you think he was?
He was a couple of years older than me.
Oh, wow. What about you, Al? When you were running in, were you guys similar in age as well? When you were running into Bruce Lee?
No, Bruce is, he's 2 years older than me.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
He's born in 41.
Huh?
Bruce was born in 41.
Who was 41?
No, Bruce was born in 41. I was born in 43.
He was 1 year older than me.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are all birthday buddies. So when you were messing around in Oakland, doing your thing, he's the same age. So when you're running into each other, that's the kind of heat that's in the conversation as two guys, same age, doing the same stuff, right? That must have been fun. That must have been a fun conversation for all of you.
Very knowledgeable. I mean,
right.
Most karate people that I know don't sit around and talk about philosophy.
Well, you gotta have that kind of mind. You want to understand how the supination of the arm is going to affect the punch. You got to want to be interested in that to talk about that kind of stuff. Or, I wonder how, over hundreds of years they developed their stance like that.
Just from his conversation, I considered him an innovator.
Because he was trying to change things up. And he was asking questions. Why do you stand like that? What's up with that stance?
He looked at some practice and said, what, is that a joke? That doesn't represent anything that's real, Oh,
I see. So when he would have his conversations, was it always combat applicable? Or was it sometimes applicable to health?
More combat than health.
Okay, I see. Because, I would look at things both ways. I'd be like, oh, hey, that's a really good combat applicable form. But then I would look at something else and say, oh, yeah, that's great for stretching out your hamstrings if you're 70.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we were in our 20s and 30s.
Yeah, it's all about
We
combat
didn't
in your
think of
20s.
anything
Yeah.
about longevity.
Fuck that.
We wanted to be.
I'm kicking
wanted to
people's
burn out
asses. Let's
and
talk
not rust
about
out.
ass kicking until 4 a.m. Exactly. What an interesting, magical fucking moment. You know what I mean? To be sitting there in your young 20s, smoking a joint with Bruce Lee, talking about martial arts philosophy until 4 a.m. Wow. So in the memory of your life, those are probably some of your fun martial arts memories, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I had lunch with Bruce and Unicorn Chan in Manila when I was doing a film with Leo Fong.
Do you remember what film that was?
I think it was The Bamboo Trap.
The Bamboo Trap.
Yeah.
Having dim sum in Manila with Bruce Lee. Did you get a chance to smoke before you went and had your dim sum? Because that's always fun. See,
that was part of his religion.
Oh, really? Part of Bruce Lee's religion was smoking weed. Oh,
he was a cannabis person.
Right on. Cannabis people, from what I understand, are some of the best people on the planet. I personally know a bunch of them, and I think they're amazing.
You know, I went to Woodstock. I met Jimi Hendrix and oh my goodness, everyone.
What a crazy time to
and I was a policeman at that time. Can you imagine?
I'm trying to imagine.
I was a policeman.
I'm trying to imagine. I just the thing about it is like not in today's world. Not in today's world. You can't imagine any of that crazy shit in today's world. The cops are not okay. A cop isn't going to sit down and smoke a joint with you if you're Bruce Lee. You're fucking not, right? So amazing that you did that. My hat's off to you, sir. Okay, so did Bruce Lee know that you were hooking up with Jimi Hendrix?
He knew that I had been training celebrities on the East Coast, just like he was training celebrities on the West Coast. You know, like James Coburn and what's his name? Oh my goodness.
That big ass basketball player. What the hell was his name? Steve McQueen. But he was also training the fucking giant dude.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Did you guys ever do joint stuff?
Kareem Jabbar's father and I were policemen together.
Get the fuck out of here.
He was the captain at my precinct.
Wait a second. Wait.
He was my boss.
If I remember correctly,
Lou Alcindor Sr. was my police captain in my precinct.
And he was the guy that was fucking with you with your afro.
Oh my goodness.
That was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's fucking father?
Oh yeah.
But was he not also the uncle of some other motherfucker that you're talking about? Sorry about my language. Some other dude? Wasn't another dude?
I believe so.
You had mentioned?
He was very mean. Super strict. Super strict. Wow.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. That name sounds hilarious. I'm old enough to actually remember who that dude was.
Yeah, he was a basketball player.
He also played in that Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, Conan 2, the second Conan movie. Wasn't that him?
Wilt Chamberlain.
Son of a bitch! Wilt Chamberlain. Man, I'm sorry. I just failed basketball history. Fucking Kareem and Wilt. They both. Now I've got to Google them and see if they even look together, if I'm just guilty of being a dumbass.
So you know who Kareem is now, right?
When he came to New York, I took him to my dojo on 7th Street on the Lower East Side of Manhattan.
Who now?
Then Bruce came to our dojo in Manhattan to meet Frank Ruiz, my teacher at the time.
Oh, I see.
And of course, we smoked weed as usual. He did demonstrate some self-defense on one of the students. He was the same person every time I saw him. And maybe the 5 or 6 times that I saw him in my life personally, he was the same guy. I thought he was in the land of reality. We look at tournaments and see stuff, and he looked at me and I looked at him and was like, that's really bullshit. You know what I mean?
This is Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, that could never fucking really work. That kind of, he was a realist. A lot of people thought he had a big ego. I thought he was just confident about what he was and who he was and what he knew.
You know,
he never bragged or anything. He knew.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. You mentioned something really important. If you said he was a realist,
yes,
and if that was his personality type, then yeah, you're right. He probably wasn't a prick or arrogant. He was one of those dudes that was just keeping it real, right?
That's right.
I'm keeping it real. Hey, you gained 7 pounds, motherfucker. What's up? Son of a bitch. You didn't notice. Yeah. You noticed. Yeah, so he was just saying, hey, that's not going to fucking work. That stance is too wide. They're too low. They're too high. They're too slow. They're too fat.
I could move is bullshit.
Yeah.
I agree with almost everything he had to say in as far as combat psychology.
Uh-huh.
I differ in only one area, in that if we have two people that are exactly the same proficiency, speed, but one guy's 6'5" and the other guy's 5'9", the 6'5" is going to kill no matter how good the guy is. The smaller guy, he's going to kill him because they're equally trained.
Right, he's got the reach.
That 6'5", that 235-pound thing. I'm 180 pounds. I roll with 340-pound guys at my dojo. And those guys are so strong that they're not just strong, they're technically advanced. You know, they're flexible.
You touch upon something that's really important. So when you say two fighters equally trained, but one of them is much larger than the other one, that whole situation is why you have different types of martial arts. Is because
exactly
this is this motherfucker's bigger than me and I need to get past his big ass.
Exactly.
You know, so this can be an equal fight for me. Yeah, so if that's what you guys did, smoke joints, talk about amazing shit like that, I'd like to ask this question. It seems like a lot of the high up, intellectual, innovative kind of martial art masters out there were smoking joints back in the 60s and the 70s. And so I have one question. Did anybody catch Chuck Norris smoking a joint? Who smoked? Because he seems like such a straight and narrow kind of guy. Did you catch Chuck Norris smoking joints? Because I didn't even think Bruce Lee was smoking joints until you cracked open that bag, right? And now you're like, oh.
I don't think Chuck Norris was the kind of guy that would smoke weed.
See, hard to tell.
That's just my opinion.
Fuck, he's done everything else. Might as the weed.
Can you hear me, Sean?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, all the times that I spent with Chuck Norris, even staying over at his house, I never saw him drink. I never saw him smoke anything. You know?
Yeah, right.
He's an angel. Yeah. He's a motherfucking. He's Michael Landon. He's a fucking angel.
He was all-American.
He's an all-American kung fu eagle. Okay, well, God bless him. He's a stronger man than me. I can't say no to a joint, so that's my problem. Just a little truthful moment there, ladies and gentlemen, everybody. I'm always honest as a host, telling you like it is. So, Bruce Lee and you, he gives you the moniker, the Black Dragon.
Yeah, we were both high, too, and I said, oh, shit, what? And like 6 years later, I'm making a movie in the Philippines called The Black Dragon. It was like, what the fuck? You know?
And so, but that worked. It worked, and it was almost like it. Did you know at the time that was going to be the blessing that it turned into?
No.
Neither one of you knew that it was.
I felt very grateful I was able to talk to someone that was at a level that I could learn something from. Do you know what I mean?
Right. At a similar age too. That must have been amazing.
Yeah.
That's a revolution, right? That's an intellectual revolution.
thought patterns, you know,
Right.
about the fitness, about exercise, you know. Very interesting.
Yeah,
Very
because you've got this whole thing where you're like 100 push-ups and 300 sit-ups, and he also was that same type of guy,
maniac,
right? Yeah, he even hooked himself up to those electroshock machines so he could
I did that
perform.
also.
So you can perform abs when you don't have to think about
Yep.
performing abs.
Yeah.
Yes, abs delicious, right? Right on. So, two gentlemen who have spent a nice chunk of time with Bruce Lee and completely two different stories, right? One's commercial, the other one is philosophy and you know, I think it's amazing because you usually don't see that kind of Neapolitan story when people talk about Bruce Lee. You know, they talk about Bruce Lee and Ip
He was
Man.
a very down-to-earth guy, you know.
Really?
And
Okay.
if you smoke weed, he would talk to you forever.
Forever. Did you ever get to meet his wife and child?
I met Linda many years ago, and I met both his kids when they were small.
Knee high to a grasshopper.
Yeah, they were small.
Yeah. All right. So Al, you've got this one story where there's a movie production going on, and you've been approached to play Bruce Lee.
Oh yeah.
Tell us about that. Tell us about. Yes, Al Dacascos, we'd like to have this discussion with you about playing the Kung Fu legend, Bruce Lee. Tell us, what was the first thing that went through your mind when somebody even brought that to your attention, that they wanted you to play the on-screen version of Bruce Lee? What was your reaction, Al?
Well, that was really sort of like an awkward situation because I was living in Denver, Colorado at that time in July, you know, and what had happened was that my wife and I at that time, and my son Mark and my other son Craig, were sitting down in the living room, and we were watching television, and all of a sudden we see this news. You know, I can remember really clearly, July 1973, this famous Kung Fu artist died in Hong Kong, you know, and then, you know, I didn't pay too much attention, but when the name come on and the picture says Bruce Lee, you know, all of us were shocked, just totally shocked on saying, wow, he's died, he died, yeah. So in July, and immediately afterwards, I got in touch with some of my students, and then I got in my contacts in San Francisco, and we took the flight out to Hong Kong, and we were at the ending part already because they were already going through the funeral and things that way, because we came inside, we couldn't get to Hong Kong right away, so we came inside about 2.5 weeks later, and there's a lot of magazines and newspapers that came into business promoting, you know, all that posting about Bruce Lee and about the movie and how he died and all that kind of stuff, you know. So we made contacts over there, just meeting all these people. Then when I got back to Denver, Colorado, you know, this was in in August of '73. We stayed there for about a month. We came back and then about a week later or 2 weeks later, you know, I would say, yeah, maybe between 1973 and 1974, I got a call, you know, because from what's his name, Howard Jackson, you know, he was a real good fighter then, and Joe Louis, you know. So they wanted me to come over to Hollywood because we're gonna do that Merv Griffin show. So, you know, I went on the Merv Griffin show, and Joe Louis, you know, he said, hey, I'm going to be doing and presenting the full contact karate, and I want you and Howard Jackson go do the fighting part and the kung fu part. You know, I said, okay. So Howard Jackson and I went up there. So, and then what happened was is that Linda Lee was already over there too because they were was there. So here comes Joe Louis. He says, and then now what we have, we all know about the passing of Bruce Lee, but now we have the new king of kung fu, El Dacascos, right? And I never tell him to say that on there. You see what I mean? So it kind of shocked, and that was went worldwide. I mean, on the Merv Griffin show. You see what I mean? And he said, "Oh, this guy Al Dacascos is the one that's going to be replacing Bruce Lee." You know, that wasn't a good thing to say because Linda Lee was over there, and she was all shocked. You see what I mean? And I go up to Linda. Hey, Linda, I had nothing to do with this. You know, see, and Joe Louis was over here promoting because he's doing his thing. He's calling me the new Bruce Lee and everything else this way. So that was kind of weird because what I had done a demonstration there with all my techniques, and then I did that spear thing where I put the spear in my neck and bend the spear. You see, and it went all over. You know, anyway, then about 6 months later. From that time there, now Linda Lee calls me up, you see, and she calls me up and she says, "Al, can you come to my house over here and stay with us for about a week because they had done this Bruce Lee search in Manila. They went to China. They went to different places here to look for somebody that could play the part of the Bruce Lee, you see. And they already had all the selections of people they had. They had about 6 or 7 people from different states, different countries, selected to audition for the final part, you know. So she called me up and she wanted me to come in, and I told her I wasn't interested. You see, I said I'm not interested in getting to the movie or anything else this way, you know. And then she convinced me anyway. So I said, okay, I'll just come down and do that. And I asked her, well, why did you want me to do it? You know, he says, well, because she had known me, she saw me, you see, and then we spent a good 2 weeks together in Europe, doing a show all over Europe. So she had seen me demonstrate, she had seen me move, and she says, "You're the only person that can mimic Bruce Lee." I says, well, how do you know that? He says, because I've been to all the auditions and I saw all the other people, but you're the one that can do it the way he does it, you see. And I said, I take that as a compliment, you know. So I went over to her house and I stayed over at her house, and she gave me the script to take a look at it. And I took a look at the script and I said, that's pretty good. You know, I like the script, you know. And then she said, you know, if you like, you can have his clothes, you can have his equipment, you can have everything, you know. And I said, no, I'm not, you know, I'm not into that kind of stuff. Because, you know, Bruce Lee was a size 7.5 shoes. I was a 9.5 shoes, right? I couldn't fit in his shoes. And he was a small jacket, and I was between a small and a medium. So when I put on his clothes, you know what I mean, it was really, really tight for me. But what I did accept from her was that she let me have 2 of these airbags, you know, 2 of the airbags, and then a couple of other equipment. And by that time too, I had already gone to Germany, you see. So I actually flew from Germany to Los Angeles. I went back to Hamburg, Germany, with my equipment. And you know, funny thing, when you have equipment and people find out it was Bruce Lee's, they somehow have a habit of disappearing. You know, so I lost the 2 bags, I lost the equipment, and I was really, really upset on it. You see what I mean? But because I was proud to have an equipment that, you know, only me had. You see what I mean? And now I kind of think about when I was thinking about it, maybe I should have just, you know, offered to accept the equipment and all the clothes that she was trying to get rid of. You see what I mean? Because I think I could have opened up a museum, the Bruce Lee Museum. You see? So anyway. We go down to do the shoot with. I had this guy Robert Klaus. Robert Klaus was the person that did Enter the Dragon. He was the director. So he came inside, they interviewed me, and they made me do some things. And I had a Howard Jackson as my dummy and everything. And we did. You know, you go, oh, and all this kind of crazy. I cannot do it right now, but you know the way he yelled and everything, right? And I did all that stuff. I know. I I had so much fun. Yeah, I hope it scare you, but I had so much fun doing it. You see what I mean? That this says yeah, but I was I was a little bit thin, so I had to start. They wanted me to train and pick up weight and put a little bit more muscles on, and I did. You know, I did, right? But what was happening was the film never went, and the film never went because it was called The Dragon: The Life and Legend of Bruce Lee, right? That was the title of it called. You see, so what had happened was just that all of a sudden, backstabbing. I had a manager, I had agency and everything, and I had two guys that was fighting to be my agent and manager. And Linda Lee told me, "Hey man, don't get involved with these guys, right? Because they know they want, you know." And for me, I said, "Man, I don't want to get involved with these guys here." And so much commotion was going on that complicated another thing. There was a guy by the name of Pat Johnson. Pat Johnson was a student of Chuck Norris. Pat Johnson is the choreographer for the Ninja Turtles series. You know, he was a fight choreographer. He was a karate guy.
Kid.
And Taekwondo, but really good friend of mine. And what happened was just that they never told me that he was going to be the one that was going to be the fight choreographer for the Bruce Lee film. You know, I asked him, "Well, who you got coming inside for the Bruce Lee film for the choreographer?" Oh, they said, "Oh, we just have a normal karate guy." And I started thinking, "Hey, what the hell?" My ego now. I said, "Why is they having a karate guy telling me how to move like Bruce Lee, a kung fu guy?" You know what I mean? So in my head, I was saying, "Man, that don't sound right, because I know this guy not going to be able to do the job." So I started arguing. I said, "Man, that don't look too good and everything else this way." So they had a complication on that and everything. Now, Pat Johnson got pissed off at me because he's friends with me, you know. But had I known that it was Pat Johnson, I would say, "Hey, no problem. Let's go ahead and do it." But because I didn't think it was Pat Johnson and think it was somebody else, I said, "I don't want to work with the guy. Get me somebody else." So he was pissed off. So what happened was that the commotion was everything dropped. We couldn't get the fight director. Then the agents was fighting. I had Don Quinn fight against Mike Anderson, and there was another William Morris agency. They was all going all kinds of places over here. So by the time we went through the negotiation and everything of what they wanted to do, they wanted to pay me something like $750 a week for so many weeks and everything else that way. Okay, now that would have been good for me, but I think ego was also going on my part. I says, you know, they wanted to change my name. You know, they wanted to change my name to some kind of Lee or Kwan or something this way. I don't know. So in other words, Dacascos now is going to play the life of legend of Bruce Lee, but now his name is, maybe as an example, John Kwan Lu or something this way.
Wait. No, they wanted you to change your name legally?
Yeah, they wanted to change my name to make it my name sound more Chinesey.
Kwan Lee!
Yeah, whatever. You see what I mean?
That's bullshit. I'm going to call bullshit, and I'm glad you made the decision to get away from that, because I went to Blockbuster one year, and I bought $21 worth of Bruce Lee videos, and it was Bruce fucking Lie. Spelled L-I. It wasn't Bruce fucking Lee at all. It was some other dude in some yellow fucking pajamas. And I was pissed. And I think I'd only been training with you for like maybe a year or two. So I was a brand new baby fucking super excited Kung Fu student. Fucking Bruce Lee. Yeah, fuck that. So I'm glad that you didn't do that. I'm glad you stuck to your fucking guns, Sifu, and you're still Dacascos and not Kwan Lee.
So I wasn't going to do it. So, you know, so afterwards, you know, all that thing was over there. You know, all of a sudden, you know, looks like we're going to have a lot of problems. So they went and stopped the project and went with a guy by the name of Alex Kwan. Alex Kwan is another good friend of mine. He's in Vancouver. You know, and he was really good. So they went and they got him. But the point was he couldn't mimic Bruce Lee the way they wanted to. He had the look. You see what I mean? So that project went nowhere, and for 20 years it just went up on the shelf. Now come 20 years later, You see, my son Mark calls me up. He says, "Hey, Dad, um, uh, the guys in Hollywood wants me to 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 go and audition for the life and legend of Bruce Lee, and do the movie called Dragon." I said, "Oh, hold on, Mark. What are you talking about?" He says, "The movie, the one that you wanted to, the one that they wanted you to do." I said, "Well, um, yeah." My son Mark asked, "Well, how come you didn't do it?" I says, "Mark, there's only one Bruce Lee. Nobody else can be Bruce Lee. Now, if they want to use my name, Dacascos portray the life of Bruce Lee, then I would have done it. But if for them to change my name to one other, whatever, Bruce Lee, whatever, he said that wasn't going to work for me." So he says, "Okay, I'm not going to do it." And he said, "But I got another thing another offer." I said, "What?" He said, "Well, there's a movie talking about capoeira. They wanted me to play the capoeira part, the movie, the Only the Strong." And so I said, "Mark, you know what you do? Forget about the Bruce Lee part. Do the capoeira movie one." So Mark went and did that one, right? So what happened eventually, that Bruce Lee film, Jargon, ended up being another one of my friends, James Scott Lee. So James Scott Lee, he called me up. He said, "Hey, Al, I'm going to be doing the Bruce Lee film part." I said, "Hey, man, fantastic, go for it. You can do it." You know what I mean? So he went and did it, and that's why you have the movie called The Dragon. You see what I mean? That came out. You see what I mean? Mark went and did capoeira, and then he did other things. So all that to me was are things that happened, and from that part, there was a lot of things that came on, because my son Mark also, you remember that Brandon Lee, and Linda Lee and the daughter used to come up to Denver, Colorado, and come skiing with us. And Mark and Brandon became really, really good friends. And naturally, Linda Lee and my wife at that time, they became good friends. And then, Brandon, when he was doing that movie, Stairway to Heaven, what it was, no, another movie, he was doing a movie. And then when Brandon Lee died, he got shot. Then that project stopped, and then they approached Mark, and they say, they're going to continue on with the Stairway to Heaven. The Bruce Lee, the Crow. What's it called? The Crow. Yeah.
Yeah, the Crow.
The Crow, right? So Mark went and did the Crow, and they were going and they were doing really, really good. The ratings was really going up and high. And then Mark stopped and he says, "I'm not doing it anymore." And I said, "Why?" He says, "Because they just had one person die on the set." He says he thinks that the movie's jinx. Was jinx and was bad luck and everything because people were getting hurt. So they cut it out and they didn't do it anymore. So he went on to do other things. So yeah, there was a lot of things that were going on, and that's about all I can say. Yeah.
Man, I didn't get to enjoy any splits with Bruce Lee, or ski with his wife and stuff. You're telling this story, Al, where you're like, "Hey, I was trying on this guy's clothes and shit." Have you ever once stopped in that moment of your life and said, "Holy shit, trying on Bruce Lee's pants"? When you say, "Hey, you can't walk in a man's life until you've tried on his shoes and shit." You've actually,
that's for sure.
You're one of the few guys on the planet who's like, "You know what? I've actually walked in his fucking shoes, and I've worn his jacket. I've sat in his car. I've done all this great shit. It's not the same size." It's interesting perspective that nobody else has. So I know that you've had people steal the memorabilia and all that, but they can't take that from you. They can't take the memory of you, sitting there going, "No shit, nice jacket. Yeah. Too bad I can't, fit. Damn it.
Yeah.
I have the Bruce Lee jacket." What if you had the Michael Jackson jacket, right? And it actually fit. How fucking magical that'd be? Or the Jimi Hendrix jacket. Didn't he have? He had one jacked up jacket, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a really nice guy.
You know what? That's the thing I think that is probably the coolest thing about you guys' stories, is that there is this famous persona that everybody has, And then there's the reality of what these guys are like in the real world. And you're like, oh, wow, who knew? Who knew? They're not out there promoting Bruce Lee's backstory of philosophy and weed. Do you know what I mean? And that's an interesting thing to know. They're not talking about, the backstories. So you get to hear this stuff and go, wow, he's a really nice guy. No shit. He'd sit down and talk to you all night about a back fist? No shit. I kind of expected that. I didn't expect the joint part, but I expected the hours and hours of, I almost said it, back fisting. That sounds terrible. Sorry, Bruce. I don't even, get me off the fucking microphone. Anyway, anybody want to add anything else? Once again, this is RoundHouse, and we want to thank you for joining us today as we talked about anything and everything the martial arts has to offer. Be sure to tune in next week and join us around the table. RoundHouse. Take the hit. And now a word from our sponsors. Funky Puppy Productions. If you need a production done, Funky Puppy Productions can do it for you. Visit us at funkypuppyproductions.com. And if you're interested in looking for more great content from our creators, please check out our other podcast, Beyond Kicking and Punching with Dacascos, and Midlife Virus with Sean Harflinger. Both podcasts can be found on Apple Podcast or where great podcasts can be found. Beyond Kicking and Punching and Midlife Virus. Find great podcasts when you want to listen to great content. You can find Legacy Through the Eyes of a Warrior, written by Senior Grandmaster Dacascos, forwarded by Mark Dacascos, on Amazon.com. Remember, Legacy Through the Eyes of a Warrior, written by a master. Find your copy today. Through the Eyes of a Warrior tells a decades-long story of Senior Grandmaster Dacascos and his life in the martial arts, from the very beginning until the very present day. Read Legacy and learn what it is to be a master in life. Dacascos.com. Visit Dacascos.com today. The story of the Black Dragon, written by himself, Senior Grandmaster Ron Van Clief, the Hanged Man. The story of Ron Van Clief and how a man was hung alive for the color of his skin. His story of survival and his climb to the top of martial arts stardom. This is the story of the Black Dragon, A Hanged Man, by Ron Van Clief, found on Amazon.com. Caring for Mothers, MalamaYourMama.com. Malama Your Mama is an organization that is all about caring for mothers. To malama is to care. And one of the greatest gifts that we can give our mothers and new mothers is that support system that they so desperately need. Together, we can teach the world to malama our mamas, just like our mamas have malamaed us. We want to dedicate this organization and its proceeds to all the strong mothers out there that have honored us. We want to steward healthy mothers and to raise mothers up. Together, we can malama our mamas. caring for mothers. Help us by visiting malamayourmama.com and supporting our cause. Mahalo. Don't be lost in the fields with nothing to wear. Whatever realm you reside, interdimensionaloutfitters.com has the gear that you need. Once again, this is RoundHouse, and we want to thank you for joining us today as we talked about anything and everything the martial arts has to offer. Be sure to tune in next week and join us around the table. RoundHouse. Take the hit.